While I'm recording, Icarus. Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about stops on Magic Online and some nuances behind it. Where you place your stops kind of defines how you play as a Magic player, and knowing when to change what your normal setup is can be the difference between winning or losing a game. Let's talk about what stops are on Magic Online and the Magic Online rules and how priority works. So you'll notice stops at the bottom of your Magic Online screen. There are little arrows by every phase, one on your side of the battlefield and one on your opponent's side of the battlefield. Now, when these arrows are filled in, you will have a stop there. When the arrows are not filled in, you don't have a stop there. You can change whether you have a stop there or not by right-clicking on the arrow and deciding whether you want you or your opponent to have a stop there. You can do this at any time. Now, the Magic rules behind stops are kind of interesting. Every time a phase shifts, whether it be main phases, combat, end step, draw step, upkeep, whatever, every single phase. The way it works is at the beginning of every step, the active player has what's called priority, meaning the active player, the person whose turn it is, gets to cast spells if they would like. So again, we see this the most during main phases, where the person whose turn it is gets to do stuff first, but it's also during the upkeep. The person whose turn it is gets to do stuff first. Whenever they cast a spell, they basically pass priority to their opponent. Your opponent has a chance of doing something, and then their spell resolves, maybe. So every time a game action is taken, the active player says, I want to do this, and the not active player says, that's fine, or I want to do this in response. So this is spells, but also the changing of phases. So at the beginning of every phase, the active player has that priority, and they ask their opponent, essentially, to go to the next phase. The non-active player says yes, and then they proceed to the next phase. We don't see this in paper or on Arena. Arena skips over a lot of stuff. It's actually kind of unfortunate. I've lost matches on Arena because I wanted stops at certain places. And we don't see it in paper because we don't go through every single phase meticulously passing priority back and forth unless it actually matters. Now, in Magic Online, if you have a stop at a location, then you're telling Magic Online that when the active player attempts to pass the phase, you want to be asked if you want to do something. Now, if you don't have a stop there, when you get priority during that phase, not with spells, but when it asks if the turn can pass, if there's no stop there, then you won't have an opportunity to cast spells. So if you want to tap down your opponent's land on their upkeep with ice or something, you want to make sure there's a stop on your opponent's upkeep so that when your opponent says, okay, I want to pass to the next phase, MTGO just doesn't do it automatically. So there's a couple ways to go about this. What a lot of my friends do is they have a stop on every single phase. I think that's a little too meticulous and maybe a little too hardcore, but it is kind of going through the turns of Magic exactly how it's supposed to be and exactly how the rules go. What I like to do is I like to have a stop on the main phase, beginning of combat, second main phase, and end step. And then if I need to have a stop somewhere else, I'll just like click one on for upkeep or click one on for end combat step or whatever. So the reason I do this is these are the phases that I am most likely to want to cast something when priority is mine. And these are the phases that maybe something will happen that I want to be asked and I don't just want to move on. Most of the time, I'm not going to do something on my upkeep or my opponent's upkeep. When I do, I'll just slap something on the stops. Most of the time, I won't want to do something on end combat. Sometimes I do want to cast a Ganjo on end combat so that they can't respond with the removal spell. And it makes games go a little faster for me because you have to also remember on Magic Online, there's a clock. If there's a stop on every single phase, then that kind of wears at your clock over time. And I'm also worried about that. However, there are some decks that you may want to play that you have a stop every single time. For example, if you have Miracles in your deck, basically Terminus is the only Miracle that's still played. But if you're playing like Legacy and playing Terminus in your deck, then you probably want to stop on every draw step so it's not obvious when you draw Terminus. And there's probably other reasons to have stops on different steps, though be careful muscle memory doesn't take over and you don't like switch to Legacy so you put a stop on your draw step and then you like play a bunch of Legacy so you're used to just passing through your draw step and clicking like pass priority, 1 or the OK button whenever your turn starts, and then you don't play another format, take the stop off, and then like pass through your first main phase or something horrible like that. So be really careful about that. But that's just some small nuances and explanations that I wanted to do about stops on Magic Online because, again, it's super, super important to understand how all that works. But if you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.